In the far southwest corner of Minnesota, where the prairie runs flat to the horizon in every direction, the land suddenly breaks. A wall of rose-colored rock rises out of the grass, older than almost anything you will ever stand on. This is Blue Mounds State Park, near the little town of Luverne, a place of pink cliffs, wild bison, and a line of stones that still keeps time with the sun. It is late November, the grass has gone to gold, and we are walking in. We are in Rock County, in the very corner of the state, a short drive from both the South Dakota and Iowa lines. Around us stretch some 1,800 acres of restored tallgrass prairie, a rare surviving fragment of the grassland that once covered this whole region. There are no mountains here and no forest to speak of. The drama is the rock itself, a long cliff of quartzite that early settlers could see from miles away as they crossed the open plains heading west. Look at the stone as we come up onto it. This is Sioux quartzite, and in the low afternoon light you can see its true color, a warm pink shading into deep red and purple. It is astonishingly hard, one of the toughest rocks on the continent, which is exactly why the cliff is still standing while the softer land around it wore away. In places, this escarpment climbs as much as 100 feet straight up out of the prairie, a sheer rose-colored face beloved by climbers today. To understand this rock, you have to think in almost unimaginable spans of time. Roughly 1.5 billion years ago, long before there were plants or animals on land, rivers ran across this place and laid down bed after bed of pink sand. Over ages, that sand was buried, heated, and pressed until the grains fused into solid quartzite. What we are walking on is the floor of a vanished world, lifted back into the light. The faint ripples you can still find in the stone were shaped by that ancient water. So why is a pink cliff called the Blue Mound? The name comes from the pioneers. In the 1860s and 70s, wagon travelers crossing the prairie from the east saw this long ridge standing on the skyline, and at a distance in the haze, the rock took on a bluish cast. They called the landmark the Blue Mound, and the name stuck long after they learned the stone was really red. It became a marker on the plains, a thing you steered by when the grass went on forever. Off the rock, the trail winds through the tall grass, and this late in the year the prairie has turned every shade of straw, amber, and rust. Big bluestem and Indian grass stand higher than your waist, rattling dry in the wind. It looks empty, but a healthy prairie like this is one of the richest ecosystems in North America, its real life hidden in a dense tangle of roots reaching deep underground. Almost all of Minnesota's original prairie was plowed under long ago, which makes a place like this quietly precious. For thousands of years, great herds of bison shaped this grassland, grazing it, fertilizing it, and pounding the soil. Then in the 1800s, they were very nearly wiped from the earth. At Blue Mounds, they came back. In 1961, the park brought in just 3 bison from a refuge in Nebraska, and let them loose on the restored prairie. From that tiny start a herd grew. Today it swings from around 65 animals in winter to nearly 100 after the calves are born each spring. This herd turned out to be something special. When their genetics were tested, the Blue Mounds bison were found to carry almost none of the cattle DNA that quietly mingled into most American herds over the last century. That makes them genetically pure in a way very few bison anywhere still are, and it is why they are now part of the Minnesota Bison Conservation Herd, a careful effort to protect the true wild bloodline. When you watch them graze here, you are looking at living links to the old prairie. Back up on the high ground, the reason people have always been drawn here becomes obvious. From the top of the cliff, the land falls away, and you can see for miles farm sections and shelter belts and the faint blue line of distant hills, all laid out under an enormous sky. In a state famous for its lakes and northern forests, this feels like somewhere else entirely, closer to the high plains of the Dakotas. Standing on rock this old, watching the light move across the grass, it is easy to lose track of time. And this place does keep time, in a way we still do not fully understand. Somewhere on the prairie here runs a line of rocks, roughly 1,250 feet long, laid out across the ground from east to west. Twice a year, on the spring and fall equinoxes, the sun rises at one end of that line and sets at the other, as if the stones were placed to catch it. Who arranged them, and exactly why, remains uncertain. It is one of the quiet mysteries of the northern plains. This whole country is the homeland of the Dakota, part of the Oceti Sakowin, the people of the Seven Council Fires. Just to the north, at Pipestone, the same hard quartzite shelters a thin seam of soft red stone called pipestone, or catlinite. For centuries, and still today, native nations from across the continent have quarried that stone by hand to carve the sacred pipes at the heart of their ceremonies. The rock beneath our feet was never only scenery here. It carried meaning long before it carried a park sign. The quartzite hides another surprise. Tucked into cracks along the sun-baked ledges grows something you would never expect this far north, native prickly pear cactus. Blue Mounds is one of the very few places in Minnesota where wild cactus takes hold, thriving on the thin, dry, heat-holding rock where little else can. In summer it opens into waxy yellow flowers. Even now in the cold, its flat green pads sit low against the stone, a small piece of the desert stranded on the northern prairie. As the afternoon slides toward evening, the light here turns to honey. It rakes low across the grass, catches every seed head, and throws long shadows off the boulders and the bare late-season trees. The wind drops, the color deepens, and for a little while the whole prairie seems to glow from within. This is the hour photographers chase and hikers slow down for. There is nothing to do but keep walking softly and let it happen. One man loved this rock so much he built his home into it. The writer Frederick Manfred, who gave this corner of the map its enduring name, Siouxland, raised a house of the same red quartzite right against the cliff around 1960. For years his home doubled as the park interpretive center, a study looking out over the prairie he wrote about. Manfred died in nearby Luverne in 1994, but his house still stands on the mound, part of the stone he could never quite leave. Late November is a stripped-down, honest season out here. The tourists are gone, the flowers are finished, the bison have grown their heavy winter coats. What is left is the essence of the place, the rock, the grass, the wind, and the huge, quiet sky. It is cold and it is beautiful, and it asks nothing of you but attention. Places like Blue Mounds do not shout. They simply endure and reward the people who come out to walk them when the crowds have gone. So that is Blue Mounds, a pink cliff 1.5 billion years in the making, a returned herd of wild bison, a line of stones that still tracks the sun, and cactus blooming where it has no business growing, all in a forgotten corner of Minnesota. Thanks for walking it with us. If you enjoyed this quiet corner of the world, there are many more trips waiting on the channel.